Just take a moment to think about it. This man went on a mission not once, but 10 separate times, fully aware on each occasion that there was absolutely zero chance of ever coming back. He is one of the few whose feet actually stepped onto the Crimean Peninsula.
Everyone should see this. Streets should be named in his honor.
A man with a capital M.
He knew he was doing something truly important.
All these words are about Yurii Balanchuk, known by his call sign Barbuk. On the Ukropochta stamp dedicated to Artan, he stands against the Boyko Towers. That was just one of his operations. He was among the few who set foot on the occupied peninsula under constant enemy fire. That is where, tragically, he was killed, but he completed the mission.
What more do they need to see, boys?
Crimea is Ukraine. Artan is strength.
He was among the few to set foot on the occupied peninsula under enemy fire. But he was a former civilian who, in the year 2022, chose to defend his country. Before the invasion, he worked as a massage therapist and practiced martial arts.
Sport was his life, his oxygen. Not a single day went by without training. Sport was everything to him. Well, almost everything. Sport and family were the two pillars of his life. And then the war became just as important. Because, when I asked him why he fought, he always said he didn't want a child to take his place. He didn't want 20-year-old boys, volunteers, to go instead. He didn't want to be replaced by a 20-year-old child.
Though untrained, he joined the territorial defense in the first days, defending Kiev and its region. It was there he received his call sign, Barbuk.
He learned to shoot, learned to handle grenades. Wherever he went, there was always Barbuk, Barbuk, Barbuk. And that's how he became Barbuk.
In January of the year 2023, Yurii transferred to the special unit Artan, which requires strong physical and psychological endurance. Always calm, always responsible. In Artan, Yurii met multiple-time world champion in Muay Thai, Oleg Primachov, with whom he served. Oleg recalls that Barbuk never tried to keep up. He always wanted to be first.
We used to go running together, followed by swimming. Where he couldn't physically prove his edge in running, he made up for it in the water. We had long-distance swims. He loved overtaking me and took pride in it. I'd say, "Yurko, you're doing great. If it weren't for you, I would have skipped training today." But since we'd already agreed, we went out and ran together. One time, we went for a run in a densely populated district of Kharkiv, full of tall apartment buildings. We set out intending to run about 5 kilometers and return. We ran through the streets and ended up getting lost. It was spring, the air was cool, and we were dressed for a short jog. Instead of 5 kilometers, we ran nearly 10. We had to ask people how to find our way back. We came back after running double the distance, exhausted and worn out, yet happy.
Very quickly, Yurii began receiving extremely difficult assignments.
That's how it was. We'd be celebrating someone's birthday. And suddenly we'd be sent off to a completely different corner of the country.
He was decisive, calm and composed. At first, he served as a machine gunner. Later, I included him in the Crimean operation. There, he was one of the main men who played a key role in leading the others.
He proved himself to be a devoted soldier, a true fanatic of his craft. He was a machine gunner who adored his weapon, constantly cleaning it. Not only that, he would clean the machine guns of others as well. For many soldiers, even maintaining their own weapon feels like a burden, and not everyone gives it the attention it requires. But for Yurko, it was a pleasure to clean the weapon, adjust the sights, and head out to shoot at night, in the most difficult conditions and under the harshest circumstances.
In May of the year 2023, with his brothers in arms from Artan, he held defenses in Kharkiv and captured Russian officers. And already in the summer of that same year, he took part in operations in Crimea. Imagine swimming in open sea for nearly 5 hours, hunted by enemy aircraft, but the mission must be completed.
You board a boat at night, and you must travel 200 kilometers across the water. Land, complete the mission, and return. Even though they were detected, enemy aircraft flew overhead relentlessly, delivering powerful fire strikes. And on the shore, they are waiting too. The enemy is there. You're not simply landing and walking around freely. In reality, there's no proper evacuation taking place, not like on the battlefield. Yes, we have evacuation, but it comes with its own complexity. The difficulty is the weather. You board the boat, fully focused on the mission. Then the wind picks up, the waves begin. You've traveled 20 kilometers, you're soaked through. And you keep going. You land. You complete the mission, then another 200 kilometers back. In other words, it's a one-way task.
Today, operations in Crimea are becoming more familiar to us, though they remain just as dangerous. But in the first year of the full-scale invasion, they felt nearly impossible. For civilians, and even for soldiers, these were extreme missions. And Yurii, along with his brothers in arms, was among the first to volunteer. Preparation lasted several months. Thanks to these operations, after 8 years of occupation, that summer Ukraine regained control over the so-called Boyko Towers.
We made it.
Brother, I'm drenched in sweat.
Yurii's wife had no idea what kind of missions her husband was taking part in. He never told her about it.
The only time I found out was when I saw the news reporting that they had been in Crimea. I recognized him in a video of that boat, when they were under fire and one of the men fell overboard. It was publicly available footage, and I recognized him in that boat. I sent him the video and asked, "How is this possible?" First of all, that they revealed you were there, and only then did I learn he was carrying out operations in Crimea. Before that, I had no idea. I suspected something. He'd come back too tanned and joked that he'd been relaxing by the sea. But they get sun everywhere, not just at the beach. So the fact that it was Crimea and the sea, I only learned that from the news.
Artan commander Viktor Torkotiuk admits, Yurii was one of the best fighters. He never said no, never looked for excuses, never said, "I'm tired," or "I want something." He simply took the mission and completed it.
This entire group was prepared, psychologically, morally, and physically. They knew how to navigate on water. They swam underwater. And Babak was one of the best in the entire group. The most defining operation he took part in, the one where he truly revealed himself, was Operation Crimea. It was the most symbolic mission in Artan's history. He participated in every deployment. There were close to 10. I never once heard him say he couldn't do something. He had always been remarkably strong, especially in terms of his physical capabilities.
Even among Artan's own soldiers, the operations in Crimea felt like something beyond reality.
It is easy to get lost at sea. It is night, the waves are high. You are pushed off course, there is no one around, no communication. We planned everything down to the smallest detail. I believe the hardest part was the psychological and emotional toll. Because we are all human. We all understand. You board the boat knowing your family is waiting, your children, your wife. And you do not know if you will return. You do not know how it will end. It is hard. It is frightening, but these men are true heroes. They were afraid, but they overcame that fear. They rose above it.
Assault missions, operations with small groups behind enemy lines, these are among the most difficult tasks, especially those carried out deep in enemy territory. He was the kind of person you could rely on. He always saw it through to the end. And he proved that to all of us.
Just think about it, this man undertook such missions 10 times, each time knowing there was a 0% chance of returning. Every single time, he managed to overcome himself, conquering his fear and uncertainty, and successfully carried out the mission all the way to the very end. They were already waiting for them there. And more than once, they fought back. This is open sea. This is the force of nature. This is the enemy, with full equipment, full military strength, a fully armed army. He is one of the few whose feet actually stepped onto the Crimean Peninsula. People like him inspire me, and should inspire everyone. They must be examples for all, for the next generation, for every Ukrainian.
On one of those missions to Crimea, Yurii, tragically, did not return.
He was finally supposed to go on leave. He told me, "See you on Thursday." I remember those words so clearly. But by Wednesday, he was already gone. We did see each other on Thursday. I collected his body from the morgue that day. On one of his visits, he bought me a large amount of coffee. I only drink coffee once a day. I do not need much, one pack lasts me a long time. I remember he went to the store, came back, and I asked, "Why so much coffee?" He said, "So you'll have enough." And that was not the only time. It was as if he wanted to make things easier. There were many moments like that. I think, somehow, people feel something. And I begged him not to go on that last mission. He said, "I cannot not go."
He died as a true hero. He landed on the shore, and that is where the battle began. He was in the forward group alongside the unit commander. The commander also died, on a scooter. They landed, the fight broke out, they completed their task. And as they started to pull back, they bravely absorbed the enemy's fire, shielding others in the process.
His wife says Yurii was always ready to sacrifice himself for the sake of others, without hesitation.
He once told me, "If I ever have to make a choice, if I am absolutely certain, 100%, that I will survive, but my comrade is wounded, we have talked about moments like that, I will never abandon him." We had conversations like that, just the two of us. He could say anything to me, we had complete trust. And he said, "Even if it's just a body, I will do everything I can to bring it back. I will do absolutely everything I can to bring him back."
Despite the difficulty of the missions and the harsh conditions he faced, he never showed fatigue or exhaustion. Every moment he tried to devote to his loved ones. He always offered support, through words and through care.
I was out walking our dogs when a Shahed drone flew very low overhead. I was terrified. I remember sending him a text message, then coming home. I had a complete breakdown. Your nerves start to give out when you're constantly afraid of phone calls, waiting for calls from unknown numbers, living in fear. I remember coming home and just crying from helplessness. And he said to me, When the Shahed flew by, did you wag your finger at it and say no, no, no? I said, no, I didn't. He asked why. Then I said, all right, next time I will. And he replied, just make sure you do. In moments when my nerves were giving out, he would say things like that. Did you wag your finger at the Shahed? There were so many examples of how he could calm me down.
Yurii was calm, at home and at work, but he never let anyone cross his boundaries. Oleg Primakov recalls that Yurii was incredibly resilient. He never sought status or rank. He was modest, attentive to others, but he stood his ground to the very end.
His call sign was Babik. In the male team, there were jokes, ways of cheering each other up. Sometimes they called him not Babik, but Babik. That really angered him. He reacted strongly, maybe even too strongly. But that shows he had strong character and never cared who was in front of him. He took it as an insult, regardless of who said it, whether they were big or small, whether they were trying to cheer him up, in quotation marks. He immediately took it to heart and stood his ground. And I said, Yurko, you're not as simple as you seem. And you weren't that small either, maybe 75 or 80 kilograms. I said, you may be small, but you're fierce. When it comes to what's yours, you'll fight for it. That's when I understood. He was someone who always saw things through to the very end.
In every photo, Babik smiles, eager to learn and determined to defend what's his. That is how his family, friends, and comrades remember him.
These are some nice toys you've got. Are you hanging out at the playground too?
Yes, I want to ride the carousel. Haven't done that in a long time.
We walked through the park, and I said, I'm filming you. He said, all right, this is my interview, and began talking about his love for bagels and more. Then he said, dry biscuits? No, I don't like those. The jet sounds like Sushka, and it shelved them. His humor was sharp, unexpected.
He was constantly driven to learn something new. Night training, night shooting, he was passionate about it all. He lived for it, he found joy in it. And truly, there are very few people who are so devoted. Yet he never sought power. He was content with who he was. If he was a machine gunner, he was proud to be a specialist at his level. Selfless, that is the word that best describes him.
His wife says their son wants to be like Yurii, even though Yurii was not his biological father. But he raised him as his own.
Their son inherited so much from him, including his outlook on life. I, for example, am very emotional. But our son took Yurii's calmness. If something cannot be changed, he simply accepts it calmly and without resistance. I struggled deeply with everything that happened. Our son had to become strong, to support me, even at such a young age.
People like Yurii are the ones they make films about, the ones they write books about. He never sought fame, but he gave his life for others. He gave the most precious thing, for the future of Ukraine.
People really need to fully understand what it truly costs, what we are paying every day, so that our children and families can look ahead, not necessarily with complete confidence, but at least holding on to some hope, toward a better future.
There were so many people at Yurii's funeral. Around 1,000. It was his aunt who happened to record a video there. The number of people was truly overwhelming. And not everyone was able to come. I believe that says a great deal about the kind of person he was. Fresh flowers are always there. People still come. They remember. Thanks to him, many of us, including myself, thanks to people like him, we go to work. We live our lives today.
Yurii received the Presidential Award for Ukraine's defense and, posthumously, was named Hero of Ukraine with honors from Defense Intelligence and the Star of Glory. But the greatest award will be the memory of the hero, humble and smiling Yurii Balanchuk, known by his call sign Barbak.
Daryna Trunova, 24 канал.